Yo, welcome to my account showcase. Genshin is turning 4 years old in September, and since I've been playing from basically day 1, I wanted to show off what your average 4-year-old account looks like. There'll be timestamps in the description if you want to skip around or see a certain part. Okay, let's dive straight in. Starting off, I want to show y'all when I started. You can see on Amber here, the first I played was on October 9th, which is 11 days after the global launch. I actually found Genshin through a YouTube ad. At the time, quarantine was in full swing, and I had just graduated, so I was a poor college student looking for free games I could play. Moving on to money, how much have I spent? Now before I tell you, I want to ask, what do you consider free to play? Because I still consider myself free to play even though I've bought some stuff. The last time I spent was in 2021, so I think I can still be considered free to play. So in total, I've spent about $25 on this game. I know, too much money, right? I've got a spending problem. That $25 was spent on 1 Welkins and 2 battle passes. Now let me know, do you think I'm still free to play even though I've spent money in the game? With money out of the way, let's check out my Spiral Abyss history. Just gonna tell you right now, it's not pretty. You can see I didn't even start the Abyss's reset portion until January 2022, where I grabbed 30 stars. You'll also see big lapses in between runs because I don't clear the Abyss regularly. I'm honestly just not that good at the game. Here we have my first 36 star in October of last year, followed by a resounding failure and wage quit for the second half. Then in January of this year, I started taking Abyss super seriously because I really wanted to C6 Yelan. I'd accidentally pulled her C1 and finally gotten my Homa for Hoot Out, so I had a really strong team to carry me. Yelan had quickly become my favorite character, and she's voiced by Ari from League of Legends, so I decided I would C6 her, and I was farming as much as I could for her rerun. You can see the last Abyss run I did was in April this year, which coincidentally coincides with the release of Star Rail. Coincidence? I think not. By the way, I don't know how many of you are interested in a Star Rail account review, but let me know if you are. I'd love to do one. Oh yeah, it's probably a good idea to also show off the theater since that replaced half of the Abyss. I gotta be honest, I don't really understand Imaginarium Theater all that much, but I think I did the equivalence of 36 starring it because I got all the rewards. I didn't grab all the stars though because I was trying to save my Arlecchino for the final run since I thought it would be really hard. Moving on to exploration progress, you can see I don't have as much done as I'd like. I 100%ed all of Mondstadt, including Dragonspine, but only finished the main regions of Liyue and Inazuma. Shenyu Vale, the Upper Chasm, Lower Chasm, and Enkonomiya are all unfinished. I've put a lot of hours into Sumeru just unlocking everything and getting all the Dendroculus, but man is Sumeru a beast to complete. Fontaine so far has been a lot easier to explore, but I still haven't finished any of it, and it most likely won't get done for a while with Natlan coming out. I've maxed out every statue in every region so far and have the extra Oculus, and also finished the crystals in the chasm. I finished Dragonspine's Frostbearing Tree, but unfortunately I don't have an extra agate because I stopped farming the Crimson Wishes when I had the exact number, not realizing I could get extra at the time. I finished the Sacred Sakura in Inazuma, but I still haven't finished the Onion in Sumeru or the Fountain in Fontaine. My Teapot isn't that interesting. I basically just maxed it out and ignore it. I only really use it to farm friendship XP. I also don't play the TCG either. I just don't really love the RNG aspect of the dice. My achievements also aren't super interesting. I've done almost 800, but I don't actively seek out any achievements. There's been periods of times where I do achievement hunting, but I usually give up when I can't immediately do one super easy, because, you know, I'm a little bit of a quitter. Oh yeah, let me show off my crit damage achievement. Apparently my highest crit ever is 429,908, and I think that achievement belongs to Eula. It used to be about 250,000 with my Hutan Raiden, but then I got Eula. I want to crit fish with her to get it higher because I've seen some people put her on like super high crit damage rolls and beat up the Wanderer boss because it has super low resistances, but that's a lot of work and I don't want to do it. Before I show off my inventory, let's see my character roster. I own quite a bit of the roster, but I'm still missing Kirarua, Sethos, Gaming, and Kaveh for 4 stars. I'm going to go into more depth about characters I have, including their builds, my dislikes, my regrets, and stuff like that in the character section, so if you want to see that, stick around, but I'll briefly go over who I still want. Writhsley, my mouth isn't, I can't say that. Writhsley, Nuvalet, Hirara, Dea, Alhaitham, Yoimiya, and Venti. I currently have 8 5-star weapons with no duplicates. The only limited weapons I have are Staff of Homa, Crimson Moon's Semblance, and Summit Shaper. I generally don't pull on weapon banners because I'd rather have the characters than the weapons, and also the weapon banner is so beyond disgustingly awful for free-to-play players, unless you're not really interested in collecting a lot of characters. I've actually only tried to get Arlecchino's Scythe and the Staff of Homeless. I missed Homa on 3 of the 4 banners, banners, getting nothing twice, and the Summit Shaper the third time, and thankfully won my 50-50 during my Arlecchino pulls. Shameless plug, by the way, if you want to go see those, check them out. Here, links down below. For my standard banner weapons, I have Almost Bow on Ganyu, Skyward Spine on Raiden, Wolf's Gravestone on Eula, a Key of Favonia on Kaya, and Lost Prayer on Yae Miko. Kaya's holding my Favonia because I can't bear to separate Bennett from my Favonius weapons. I just love the free energy generation. For the event weapons, I have the Ibis Piercer, Ballad of the Boundless Blue, Luxurious Sea Lord, Cinnabar Spindle, Cloud Forged, Mailed Flower, Dialogues of the Desert Sage, Dodeko Tales, Oath-Sworn Eye, I hope I remember my Japanese lessons, Tokabu Shigure, Fading Twilight, and Windbloom Ode, all at R5. The only event weapons I'm missing are the Missive Windspear and Festering Desire. I'm a little too lazy to double check, but I'm pretty sure I have every fishing and crafting weapon available, but I don't have all of them maxed out. A while ago, I purged all my 3-star weapons, not realizing some of them are rare, but I still have 1 Traveler's Handy Sword, 2 Dark Iron Swords before exploring Chenyu Vale, 3 Fillet Blades, 1 R5 White Iron Greatsword, 2 Skyrider Greatswords at R5 and R1, 3 R1 White Tassels, 1 R5 White Tassel, 3 R1 Halberds, 1 R5 Halberd, 1 R5 Otherworldly Story, 2 Twin Nephites at R5 and R1, 3 Messengers, and an R5 Recurve Bow. I think that's all the rare 3-star weapons. If I'm missing one, just call me a dumbass. There's not too many insane artifacts on my account, so I won't show off any right now. Again, I'll be showing off my character builds in way better depth a little bit on, so stick around if you want to see that. There's nothing interesting in the mats, but I'll pan through for those of you who care about it. You'll notice I have 27 crowns, and that's because I used to have an issue with hoarding them. I've only used a couple crowns, and I plan on using more. I think my only triple crown characters currently are Hutao and Arlecchino. Again, nothing interesting in the food department. I rarely ever use any food, and one time I did try to make a video where I maxed all the recipes, but I underestimated the amount of time and effort it would take, so I just kind of gave up on it. My mats inventory is looking a little worse for wear nowadays since I blew through so much trying to max ascend every character. By the way, go watch that video, it took me so long to do. But I have a couple billets of each type and some dragon teeth. Like I said, I'm not much of a teapot guy, so I don't have a lot of wood, and I also don't have much fish either. There are 22 limited gadget in Genshin's history, and I have all the possible obtainable ones. I'm technically missing 3 of the Sealies, but that's because you can only choose one at a time, and the only other gadget I'm missing is the bubbly camera, but that was only available to Chinese players for the Pizza Hut collab. I don't think any of the quest items are worth going over. You basically have them or you don't, so this is what I have. This is where the rare items are stored. I have a bunch of the artifact containers that you get from the Abyss because I don't upgrade artifacts that often, so I don't need them. I also have 2 billet containers, and I have no idea where they're from. There's also this gardening package from some event, and you get a teapot decoration from it, but I couldn't choose which one looked better, so I just never opened it. I have 3 birthday cakes, and I'm just missing the 2022 cake because I had quit the game during my birthday. My Zhao lanterns are the pride and joy of my account. I have 1,545 of them, and I've never spent them outside of their original event. During the first lantern ride, I was super into Genshin, and when I noticed the mats had an expiration date, I decided to grind as many lanterns as I could. I actually farmed them to the last second and missed out on some lanterns because a reset happened before I could craft them. I'm down to 150 fragile resin, having spent over 50 last video. I have 71 dream solvent, and honestly I don't think I've ever spent a single one of them. During the early days of the teapot, I drank these vials like water, but honestly I don't buy them anymore because you can only hold like 99 or 100 before it caps you out. I'm still spending hydro and dendro sigils, but for Anemo and Geo, the game didn't have objectives to use them for, like Inazuma's Sakura tree, so once you buy out the shops you can collect so many of them. I still have Paimon's food fun, and it's such a cute little thing that I'm never gonna get rid of it. These hunting traps are so old. There were some early game quests where you're supposed to like trap some pigs, but I didn't know how to use them, so I just slapped the pigs and got to keep the traps. Congratulations if you made it this far, or if you just skipped here immediately. This next part is going to be the longest part of the video because I'm going to go over each character that I have and talk a bit about them, so if you were looking for a good time to go to the bathroom or to take overwhelming revenge on those who wronged you, this is the time. So strap in and let's begin, as all good and unbiased videos do, with a tier list. This list is my personal character list, meaning this is my ranking for my characters and how they perform on my account. Again, just to be clear, this is not saying X character is weak everywhere, this is saying my X character is weak, okay? So remember that before you pull out the pitchforks. I'll be going over every character in detail, but this is just a quick overview of how my characters perform for me, / how they're built, / how I use them. S tier are the characters I pick everywhere with no hesitation. A tier are characters that are really solid and put in work, but I think need to be updated or are just not characters I'd play everywhere. B tier are characters that are pretty good, but I just haven't played enough to really rank them any higher. C tier are characters that I basically never use unless under certain circumstances, or are characters that I've used before that just generally suck. D tier characters are characters that I just don't use ever, whether it be because the character themselves are bad or just because I don't have a team for them. F tier characters are characters that just straight up aren't built. They may have fully upgraded artifacts and decent talents, but still aren't what I categorize as built. I didn't include Lumine because she has so many different versions that I haven't used evenly, but I'd say generally Hydro is F tier, Dendro is B tier, Electro is B tier, Geo is C tier, and Anemo is F tier. Moving on to the part that I'm sure most of you are interested in, we have the characters. I'll start off with the crowning jewel of my account, Arlecchino. Level 90 with 2.9k attack, 73 crit rate, and 156 crit damage. Admittedly, her build isn't too glamorous to look at, and that's because she still doesn't have her signature set. She came out in the middle of my quest to max every character, so I only put a day or two of artifact farming on her. But since she's C3 with her signature weapon, she carries me through literally everything ever, so I probably won't farm for her for a while. As you'd expect, she's triple crowned and max friendship, and I'm probably going to save up for her rerun because my end goal is to get a C6 character, and Arlecchino is the one I want. Next we have the original Arlecchino, Hu Tao. Hu Tao is actually my second limited character ever. I saved up after Ganyu's banner for a while and was checking for leaks daily, and I was super excited for her. In fact, I have an old video about pulling her. Before Arlecchino, Hu Tao was my most invested character ever. I pulled for her weapon 4 times and even pulled Yelan specifically to use with her. I actually recently updated my Hu Tao in this video, so she may look familiar. 28k HP, 220 EM, 68 crit rate, and 222 crit damage. She's on Staff of Homa, 4-piece Crimson, triple crowned, and C0. I spent a lot in the strongbox to rebuild my Hu Tao because I needed to rebalance her crit after getting Homa. She was originally on Deathmatch, which is a crit rate weapon, so there was quite a bit of work there. I ended up dropping her HP significantly to add in some EM since she's only ever used in vape teams, and because I have double Hydro and Zhongli, so the survivability isn't really an issue. Next up is Ganyu, who was my first ever limited 5-star. She was my favorite character for a long time and carried me through most of the game. I do want to upgrade her build a little bit because I haven't touched it since Wanderer's Trope was added to the strongbox. She has 2300 attack, 115 EM, 52 crit rate, and 168 crit damage. She's on Amos Bow, 4-piece Wanderers, C0, and single crowned. Ganyu as a character holds a special place in my heart, but honestly, I see no reason to crown her E or her R other than just to say she's triple crowned. I've been meaning to get her talents to 9, but I've just had bigger fish to fry recently. I actually did use Ganyu in the Abyss for a while during the Weenu era because I could take Zhongli off of Hu Tao's team. Ganyu absolutely carried me during that Abyss with the reverse melt team, if you want to watch it, smiley face. After Ganyu, there is Keqing, who is my first ever 5-star character. As you can see, she is a little bit outdated. The last time I used her, Dendro didn't exist, so she's built for a different version of the game. 2200 attack, 82 EM, 61 crit rate, 160 crit damage, Lion's Roar, 2-piece Gladiators, 2-piece Thundering Fury, C1, and 988 talents. I actually plan on triple crowning Keqing. She's definitely a character where all her levels matter, but I'm holding off until I get a better Dendro applicator. Lumine, Yae, and Kale are fine characters, but Nahida's Dendro application is just so spectacular. Also, I really need Kazuha because he's so much better at grouping than Sucrose, but I don't really like him, so I've never pulled him. Yelan was my favorite character after Ganyu even before I pulled her. She's voiced by Lara Post, who voices Ari, my first main in League. I actually lost my 50-50 to Yelan on her second banner, but my friend sponsored me to get her. After I came back from quitting, I was randomly pulling on Yelan's banner and got her to C1. I ended up using her to solo dailies and bosses for a while before Arlecchino. She has 32,000 HP, 83 crit rate, 121 crit damage, and 200 ER. I kept her crit rate so high because I was using her to friendship farm, which is where you play the game with 1 max character and 3 random characters so they can get friendship. I needed her to be consistent, and since she has so many instances of damage, the extra crit rate was way more valuable. Also, she's on Favonia, so extra critting means more energy, which means more ult uptime. She's on 4-piece Emblem, C1, and 7-10-10. I was planning on triple crowning her, but that was before I spent all my C6 savings on Arlecchino. Once I get Arlecchino to C6, I may revisit the idea of C6ing Yelan, but that is literally years in the future. Next, we have Zhongli, Lee, probably the only male character I've ever pulled in any game just because of his voice. Also, I loved Leeway, and Rex Lapis's Archon quest is so amazing. Just one of my favorite characters ever. He has 45,000 HP, 67 crit rate, and 95 crit damage. He used to be on Skyward Spine, but I ended up giving that to Raiden, so I gave him Hu Tao's old deathmatch because it was the only maxed out spear I had. In the future, if I don't get a better option, he'll be put on either Favonius or White Tassel. I don't have an R5 Favonius, so it's probably gonna be the White Tassel just for the HP buffs. He's on 4-piece Tenacity, C0, and 699 talents. I definitely plan on double crowning Zhongli, and I want to try to make his crit even better. When I rebuild him, I might even make him HP crit rate if I can get an R5 Favonius. From one Archon to the next, here's Raiden. I was actually so excited for Raiden. She was so hyped up in the lore at the time. Basically every character was talking about the Electro Archon and how she had locked down an entire nation. And then in the story, she's this uber powerful character with some crazy quests, and there's this whole island she cut in half to kill a serpent, and the serpent's body is still there? Yeah, she's amazing. I think Raiden and Zhongli ruined my perception of Archons permanently. But yeah, I was super excited for Raiden, and I was saving for so long, and then I cracked and pulled Ayaka instead. I actually don't really like Ayaka's character all that much. She's kind of like Firefly to me, where the game tries really hard to make you like them with these moments, but they felt so forced and fake to me. I don't know, maybe Sarah just permanently broke my view on relationships or something. Don't fucking include that. I ended up pulling for Ayaka even though I didn't love her character because her kit is so damn cool. Ice pun. The alternate sprint seemed really cool. Ice pun. The alternate sprint seemed really cool, permanent cryo uptime was dope, and her ultimate is so cool. I literally just can't stop saying cool. Unfortunately, she never really did all that well for me. She's 2100 attack, 34 crit rate, 212 crit damage, Amanoma for her weapon, 4-piece Blizzard Strayer, C0, and 888 talents. I used to run Ayaka and Hu Tao in the Abyss, fire on one side and ice on the other, but Ayaka was dragging down my clears significantly. Her team was Mona, Sucrose, and Iona for a freeze, but it never really went that well. She didn't deal enough damage in the rotation, and grouping was so hard with Sucrose, so I just gave up on the team. Maybe I'll try rebuilding it in the future, but I think Ayaka just needs a lot of different stuff to function. It feels like she needs Shenhe, Kokomi, and Kazuha, and her weapon to really feel good. And since I'm free to play, I can't really invest all that stuff into her if I want to, actually get other characters. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Do you think Ayaka functions well with free-to-play teammates, or does she really need to have all that limited stuff? Back to Raiden, she has 2100 attack, 55 crit rate, 155 crit damage, 200 ER, 200 ER, Skyward Spine, 4-piece Emblem, C0, and 999 talents. I was planning on triple crowning her, but I never did because I replaced my Rational team with Reverse Melt Ganyu. Without her C2, Raiden's damage just felt a little too slow for my Abyss runs. I know she is amazing and with better gameplay she works, but I don't have better gameplay. Honestly, the only team I really use her with right now is Eula, and I dropped Eula, so I'm not really using her at all. I know attack goblets can actually be better for her, but it's such a cracked piece I can't replace it. It's even on set, which is insane. I love every aspect of her character, but I just can't find teams to use her with right now. Oh, also her ultimate? So fire. Yae Miko is honestly one of my bigger regrets. She has 1500 attack, 154 EM, 79 crit rate, 177 crit damage, Lost Prayer, 2-piece Gladiator, 2-piece Thundering Fury, C1, and 688 talents. I pulled for her for 2 reasons. One, she's so pretty. Like, yeah, she's pixels, but like really good looking pixels. And 2, her ultimate is super cool. I don't know what it was about Inazuman characters, but I pulled a lot of them just because of how awesome their animations looked. Miko was my first ever double pull, which got me her C1, but I've never used her. When she came out, there was a lot of confusion on how she was built because Dendro didn't exist. She felt kind of lackluster in every aspect, and it felt like you needed a little bit of everything. Attack, crit, EM, and ER, and at the time, electric characters just didn't feel too amazing because of their reactions. I haven't touched her build since Dendro came out, but I'd like to use her. Oh yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but she has my highest crit damage roll in the game. The only thing that sucks is it's on an ERP, so her attack is super low. Speaking of Inazuman characters with awesome animations, meet Kokomi. I pulled Kokomi specifically because of her ultimate animation and her auto attacks, because they're little fishies. She came out right after I missed Raiden, and I blew my guarantee on her and instantly regretted it. Kokomi was so beyond dog shit when she came out. I don't know how to explain it, but she was bad. Luckily, the Ocean Hued Clam set came out, so she ended up becoming better and I really liked her. I actually ran the Sukokomon team for a while but dropped it because it's too much work. Tsukokumon is crazy, by the way. This is the video I watched and it explains it so well. I don't really run Kokumi on any team because I just don't have the need for her. Arlecchino literally can't be healed, Hutao doesn't want to be healed, and Ganyu wants Bennett instead. Basically any DPS character I play likes Bennett and Zhongli more than just a Hydro Kokomi. Also, I run Kokomi on Clam because I really like seeing that 30k true damage pop up. I think it's really funny. She has 40k HP, 120 ER, Prototype Amber, 4-piece Ocean Hued Clam, C0 and 686 talents. I actually don't love her character, and I know I say that a lot, but I just think the general of a revolution should be a more serious and an older character. Kokomi felt out of place during the Inazuman storyline. If I could change her design, I'd give her a more standard Inazuman outfit, make her a little bit taller, make her voice be a bit deeper, and just generally feel like an older character. She just kind of felt a little too anime for a questline that was so serious. Maybe that's a bad take, let me know what you think. If I end up rebuilding Kokomi, I'd just add as much ER as I could, crown her Jellyfish, and maybe swap her to Dragon Slayer. She might make my Ayaka team better with that weapon. The last of my Inazuman 5 stars is Ayato. I pulled him because his skill looked really sick, and that is it. Honestly, I don't even really use him. After I pulled him, I kinda quit the game for a while because he was a dude and I felt like I wasted all my money. He was a part of my first 36 star clear in the Abyss, but honestly not for the reason you might think. I used him as a tank. It was the Hydro Topal and I was getting rocked by it. I was running Raiden, Ayato, Bennett, and Xiangling, so Ayato wasn't even dealing damage. I just swapped him if I was afraid of getting hit. At the time, my other team was Hutao, Zhongli, Xingqiu, and Yelan, so I didn't have a Hydro character for Rational, and that's where Ayato came in. He's actually built super well because I farmed with him for a while. He is nearly 100% uptime on Z, so I could just run between mobs and farm them super easy. He is 1991 attack, 87 crit rate, 171 crit damage, the Black Sword, 4-piece Gladiator, C0, and 686 talents. I've seen some C6 Ayatos do ridiculous things, but I'm happy with how his build ended up, so I'm not going to touch him. Eula is the last of my really well built 5 stars. I wanted her for so long because she's so pretty, and her normal attack animations are so fluid and smooth. I think there is a criminal lack of greatsword characters in Genshin. I feel like most greatsword users are too unpopular. Greatsword characters are dope. I wish Genshin had like a Guts style greatsword user. Eula has 2500 attack, 52 crit rate, 172 crit damage, Wolf's Gravestone, 4-piece Pale Flame, C0, and 877 talents. Once I pulled Eula, I spent a long time building her. Pale Flame got added to the Strongbox, so I'd farm her domain and Strongbox everything else, and I feel like her build ended up pretty damn good. I really like her, but using her in the Abyss feels abysmal. Also, a huge issue with Eula is she uses my Bennett, so I can't C6 Bennett. Physical characters are basically forgotten. The only support they've received recently is Mika, who's got to be one of the worst characters in the game. And I don't mean his kid is bad, I mean his character is bad. I hate him. I could say a lot of hateful and despicable things, but I'll refrain from doing that. Mika is generally used as Eula's Bennett replacement, but without his C6, he's not really comparable. I can't C6 my Bennett until I get Mika C6 because of Eula. My Eula team just feels so trash. It's Eula, Raiden, Rosaria, and Bennett. Eula kind of feels like Blade from Star Rail. I love both their characters, but their niches don't really have the support they need. Physical damage for Eula and HP for Blade. The biggest issue with physical characters in general is there's no reaction for them, so they're just not that good as enemies scale up. Superconduct gives some cryo damage and shreds resistances, but that's about it. The superconduct damage is also trash. It's so beyond bad. I hope physical characters get some love in the future. I don't even know how Mona's supposed to be built anymore. When I played her story quest, I thought she was the coolest character ever. Jumping in and out of water while sprinting is still really dope, but it gets super annoying when you're trying to run around the world and explore. I tried building her as a main DPS when I got her because I never understood how she worked, but that failed hard. The only team I've ever used her on was my Ayaka team, but honestly she kinda sucked there. And in the future she'll get replaced if I build that team. My Mona has 1200 attack, 59 crit rate, 130 crit damage, 255 energy recharge, R5 Widsith, 4-piece emblem, C3, and 6, 8, 11 talents. Honestly, I'd forgotten her constellations are so high. She's actually tied as my highest constellation 5-star. The last time I used her, she was C0. The last time I saw Mona get used, she was built with Thrilling Tales and Tenacity, but I absolutely refused to do that. Her kit is interesting and has cool animations, and I thought it would be wasted just to force her to be a buffer support. Also, she's really hot. If I come back to Mona, I'll probably give her a Favonius weapon because I didn't have one the last time I played her. That's the end of my built 5-star characters. Now it's time to take a look at my 4 stars. Let's start with my first character, Xiangling. You all know how OP she is, I don't need to talk about it. 1600 attack, 189 EM, 61 81 crit rate, 120 crit damage, 200 ER, R5 catch, 4-piece emblem, C6, and 2 12-13 talents. I definitely need to crown Guoba, especially after his event. Zhongli has been so good to me. When I started the game, I only got Zhongli and Barbara dupes in my pools, and I was complaining that I didn't get anything new. Fast forward 2-3 years, and it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because getting C6 Zhongli is like the best thing you could do. The only upgrades I'd like to make to her account are getting her a little bit more EM, because having around 220 EM I think is pretty good, but 189 is not bad. Next, we have Bennett. It was a huge shock to me that Bennett and Xingqiu are voiced by Christina V. For those of you who don't know, Christina V is Riven in League. It's a bit of a common trend with me, but I don't like Bennett. I really dislike his character, but I love him because he's so strong and he's fun to use. I recently rebuilt my Bennett for my Ganyu because when I started I had him on HP healing bonus for some reason. He's now at 20k HP, 1200 attack, 45 crit rate, 92 crit damage, and 265 ER. He's on Favonia's sword because I really didn't like the Akia Favonia. The attack buff he gave was only like 200 attack more, and I really hated not having as much energy. I almost exclusively use Bennett with Zhongli in teams, and he's important for me to be able to battery her for 100% ult uptime, so Favonius wins out for me. Bennett's also one of only 2 characters I have that uses 4-piece Noblesse. Most of the Noblesse users I had that were on 2-piece swapped to Emblem anyway, so I don't have to worry about overstacking. Like I said during Eula's build, I haven't C6'd Bennett because it screws her over. I do want to C6 him because the pyro buff for Zhongli and Arlecchino would be huge. His talents are 288, and honestly I thought I had already crowned his ult, but it looks like something that I still have to do. The only other upgrade that I want to make to him is adding way more crit rate and maybe a bit more crit damage, but I haven't farmed Noblesse in a while, so that's why my stats are a little bit lower. Honestly, my Xingqiu is kinda shit. He's just getting carried by Yelan. He's got 1600 attack, 62 crit rate, 81 crit damage, 200 energy recharge, R5 sack sword, 4-piece emblem, C6, and 199 talents. I only got C6 Xingqiu recently. I missed him on every banner, so I used the Lantern Rite to get my last copy, which is why I don't have Gaming. He just needs better artifacts, to be honest. There's too many dead stats on his pieces. When I was building emblem characters, Xingqiu ended up getting the short end of the stick. All the best pieces went to Zhongli, Raiden, and Yelan before him. I'll give him his just dues soon enough, especially since I can strongbox emblem while I'm farming other stuff. Xingqiu hasn't left my Hutao team in 3 years, so he definitely needs some updating. To finish off Genshin's insanely OP 4 stars, there's my Fischl, who I honestly haven't used basically anywhere. I think she was my 3rd character ever, and I've never really used her. I briefly used some teams and splashed her in, but I never really loved Electro teams anyway. Most Electro characters feel pretty underwhelming to me. I didn't even have Fischl on real pieces until recently. She has 1700 attack, 231 EM, 53 crit rate, 117 crit damage, 115 energy recharge, R3 stringless, 4-piece golden troop, C5, and 288 talents. Maybe the reason Fischl has always felt underwhelming for me is the lack of her C6. I feel like she's built really well, but she's just not working for me right now. Actually, is she in the shop? Ooh, maybe I should just bite the bullet and buy her last copy. But yeah, I randomly farmed the golden troop domain at one point because I thought about rebuilding Miko. I got some good drops from the day of farming I did, so I just gave them to Fischl and they ended up rolling okay. I'm noticing a trend where I don't really use any Electro characters because I really didn't like Taser teams or Overload teams at the time, but I haven't played with too many Dendro Electro teams. Barbara is one of my oldest characters and I used her so much early on like most people. She has 33k HP and that's basically it. I gave her a 90 Thrilling Tales because I figured she deserved it. I know Thrilling Tales gets basically no value out of being leveled, but I wanted to at least give her some attention. She's still on 4-piece Maiden with HP healing bonus, and she'll probably never leave it. The only other builds that would be useful on her are Tenacity and Ocean Hued Clam, but if I'm ever in the need of a Hydro healer that can build those sets and hold Dragon Slayer, I'll just use Kokomi instead. I have her at C6. Actually, what do her cons even do? I only know that her C6 is the res. Okay, regens energy, decreases skill cooldown, gives active character a Hydro bonus. I didn't know that. That's pretty good actually. Regen energy when charge attacking, and then the res. Yeah, so Barbara's cons are pretty shit. The only good one is her C2. The issue with Barbara, other than only being a healer, is her skill applies Hydro. It was a little useful in early game dungeons, but it's probably the worst thing ever. Getting permafrozen just because you wanted to heal is the most awful experience ever, and it's a big reason why nobody goes out of their way to play her. Her talents are 188, and they'll stay that way until the servers go down. I don't even remember why I built Rosaria initially, but I ended up using her with Eula since I have her C6. 1900 attack, 58 crit rate, 100 crit damage, 141 energy regen, R1 Favonius Lance, 2-piece Blizzard, 2-piece Noblesse, C6 like I said, and 188 talents. I really like Rosaria's gameplay. Her ultimate is is really cool and it feels smooth and it gives crit, which is nice, but she just doesn't feel good to use in most teams. Since her off-field cryo application and damage is low, she's just not really used anywhere, which is a damn shame because she's got a cool design. Yeah, violent nun characters aren't the most original trait ever, but it's still super cool. Rosaria suffers from the fact that she's just not a good generalist character like Bennett, Xiangling, Sucrose, Xingqiu, and Fischl. Kuki. When I came back to Genshin, Kuki was the only Hyper Bloom team I built. She has 886 EM and I just could not get that higher. She's got her R1 Iron Sting, 4-piece Flowers of Paradise Lost, C0, and 143 talents. At the time, I had a lot of character work to do, so I gave Kuki the bare minimum she needed. I used her Hyper Bloom team a little bit, but it never stuck because it felt like my Dendro application was too weak. If I ever pull Nihita, I'll definitely revisit Kuki for a Hyper Bloom team, but as she stands, I don't think I have a use for her. Sucrose, the budget Kazuha. Honestly, I may get hate for this, but having played Kazuha, I could never go back to Sucrose. Her E just never groups how I want it to. Kazuha is so superior for grouping and it makes me sad to say. Other than that, my Sucrose does need work because I did give up on her a little bit. She has 651 EM, 122 ER, R5 sack frags, 4-piece Viridescent, C6, and 188 talents. I know her EM is low and that's because I couldn't for the life of me find EM Viridescent Venerer pieces. I only have the Circlet EM and my Sands is an off piece, so my Goblet is Anemo damage. She also needs to be level 90, that's like the only thing that matters is her having EM and levels. I'd love to revisit her because even though I don't use her on any of my main teams, she's flexed into a lot of stuff during events and is really good when built, even if her skill annoys me. Have I said how much I hate lolly characters in this game? Have I also mentioned I hate the furry characters as well? Yeah, you mix those together and you get Diona. I actually built Diona and used her a lot on my Ayaka team, but she never really fit and I only used her for the sustaining cryo resins. She has 24,000 HP, 147 EM, 180 ER, R5 Sackbow, 4-piece Noblesse, C4, and 188 talents. Like I said before, my Ayaka team was super dysfunctional and it wasn't anything huge, it was just like every single piece of that team was unfinished or built bad or just didn't mesh together. I don't even know the last time I saw Diana used anywhere and I doubt I'll ever use her again. It just feels like her time for me has passed. Heyo there, editing me here to explain something really quick. I still have a bunch of unbuilt characters left to go and honestly they're not that interesting. I initially went in depth over their builds, weapons, and talents, but since most of them have little to no work done, I decided it got a little boring and I'm gonna do something a bit different. Instead, I'll be showing you the characters I want to build and talking a bit about what I want to do with them. For characters that I'm not planning on building, I'll also briefly talk about why. If you care about a specific character, check the timestamps and skip around. So I want to start off with Furina for characters I want to build. You may remember me saying I detest Furina or hate Furina and are wondering why I pulled for her. And really, it's simple. She's broken as fuck, and I don't hate her that much. Let me explain because I don't want to sound like a hypocrite. When Fontaine came out, I was still catching up with Sumeru, and the only thing any Genshin content talked about was Furina. Furina this, Furina that, oh my god, Furina is so OP. You have to play Furina, she's literally the best character in the game. There's nothing better in Genshin than Furina, I love her so much. It's annoying. And generally as a person, I'm a bit of a contrarian. When something gets popular, I tend to just hate it. It's not the healthiest thing, but I can't help it. Anyways, I started hating on Furina as I do, and people would always say, oh, you have to do the quest, it'll make you love her so much. She's literally the best character in the game. And I finally did it, and admittedly, I didn't hate her as much. She's still a goofy ass character, and I don't love her, but I do love Folklore and Fontaine itself. Fontaine was amazing even though I thought it was going to be shit, but I'll say it again, I don't like Furina. Yeah, I felt bad for her, but Folklore is an insanely cool character design, and yes, Furina is technically a part of her, but it doesn't make me like her. It sucks Furina basically had to act for 500 years and be isolated from everything, but like that's just my life every day, so I don't see a reason to love her. Folklore is the half of the character that did everything cool. It's not like Furina and Folklore were planning anything together or they have a connection or anything. Furina was just a puppet. Whatever. That's my daily dose of hating on Furina. Feel free to white knight the fictional character in the comments. I'm never gonna stop hating on her. Furina is pretty flexible, so she can go on a lot of different teams, but the main reason I pulled her is my Hu Tao. Hu Tao is pretty greedy and takes both my Xingqiu and Yelan away from other teams, so I'm constantly using suboptimal Hydro characters on other teams. With Furina, I can cycle a third Hydro character around and make some more teams possible. I want to build Jean because she's a pretty good pairing with Furina, and also she's an OG, so it's nice to pay some respect. Obviously, it's also good to have another Viridescent user other than Sucrose. My Jean actually does have a decent build though. 1400 attack, 62 crit rate, 122 crit damage, and 170 ER. The reason she actually has some good stats is because of Sucrose. While farming for EM pieces, I kept getting double crit stats, and obviously Sucrose doesn't really care for offensive stats like that, so I put them on Jean for the time being. Over time, as my artifact bag got filled, I'd randomly upgrade her pieces, and that's how they rolled. Since her build is pretty much solid, I just need to get her a leveled weapon and some talents. Diluc sort of got cannibalized when I pulled Eula. I stole his gravestone and gave him the mailed flower, but never upgraded it. He's mostly on leftover Hu Tao and Xiangling pieces, so he's not that impressive. I'd like to be able to use Diluc in the overworld and events because his kit feels really nice. He's got a significant amount of pyro application, so I think with Vape teammates he'll be solid. Child is my most neglected limited character. I pulled for him on his third banner because he's like an old friend. His Hydro Blades are awesome, but also sort of the worst part about him. Since his skill cooldown increases based on the amount of time spent in melee stance, it really encourages you to combo with him. This made him a pain to use in the overworld because I wanted to just be able to right click and not think. I've seen Child do some nasty things, and I think having his fireworks team in my back pocket is a good upgrade to my account. Child's also just super fun to play with when you give him some investment. Moving on to the 4 stars I want to build, there's Yao Yao and Kale. I actually thought I had built them already, but didn't realize they were unfinished until this video. I don't have any specific ideas for them, but my account is sorely lacking in Dendro characters because I wasn't around for Sumeru. In the future, I want to build Hyperbloom and Aggravate team, so I need some Dendro supports ready. BIDO is so pretty and is one of the cooler characters both mechanically and lore-wise. There's a YouTuber I watch that has a lot of BIDO soloing content that makes me want to build her. Even if I don't build BIDO as a carry character, I'd like to be able to use her as a viable support in some teams. I can't state it enough, but I really like BIDO and I want her to be usable. Sara's kit is a little wacky to me, but I know her C6 is pretty broken. I want to build her so I can swap from a Rational team to a Raiden support team. Sarah's also a pretty attractive female character, so that always drives the motivation up. I just feel bad for Noelle. It seems like she's always getting snubbed by the Knights of Favonius, and I really just want her to feel happy. As one of the starter characters you get, I spent a lot of time playing around with Noelle, and she's a lot of fun. Her ultimate turning her sword into a giant Geo blade is so cool and deserves more playtime. I also have her C6, so I know she can get really strong, and I don't have a Geo carry to play around with. Sadly, I don't have a good 5-star weapon to give her, so I'm probably going to hold off on building her until later on, unless I get a Red Horn. I don't have many Krau supports, and I think Layla could enable some fun melt teams in the future. Also, she has a 5-star weapon, so I'm certain she can be strong, but I'll probably wait on building her until I can get some constellations for her. It may seem weird, but I want to build Chongyun because his ultimate is actually really awesome. He may not be good, but I think there's potential in there. I've also thought about using him to enable some weird cryo teams because of his skill. Now, truth be told, I actually forgot about Aloy in the first draft of my script. It was really embarrassing because Aloy is my favorite video game character and the protag of my favorite game ever. It's because of those reasons I'm determined to build her. I know she's basically an unwanted child to Hoyoverse, but Horizon Zero Dawn holds a special place in my heart, so I want to do her justice. Also, her ult is super low energy cost, and it's kinda cool. So after finishing off those characters, you have the characters that I don't really want to build, and I'll start off with Tighnari. I used to hate Tighnari because I wasted a guarantee on his banner, not realizing he's a dude and not limited. I don't hate him anymore, but I also don't see a reason to build him until he's C6. I don't really need a reason to not want to build Chi-Chi, she's just a bad character with no redeeming qualities. Goro only really works in mono Geo teams, and like I said, I don't have a Geo carry, so I'm not gonna build him. Ningguang is very pretty, but she's just weak and I don't like her gameplay anymore. I don't see any reason to use Lynette over Sucrose. I don't have Faruz on C6, and I don't have an Anemo carry to pair her with anyways. Aijo is a dude and a 4-star DPS, so he's just never gonna be built. Sayu's voice actor is Lily Pichu, so I can't use her ever. I don't know enough about Charlotte to use her, and her design isn't compelling enough to make me want to learn what she does. Fremine is just a weird little kid. His kit did seem interesting, but not enough. I hate this character so much, I'm not even gonna say its name. The only time I'll use it is if I can manage to get it to C6 for my Eula. Kaya is just not interesting enough to use. Dory's kit is just bad, and her design isn't helping that. I never liked Razor, even though his story quest was good. He's still not a good character, and I have no reason to want to build him. The only reason I won't build Lisa is her skill. If they remove the charging aspect, I'd use her. Candace is so pretty, and her design is super dope. The heterochromia is awesome, but her ult only works when a character switches in, so she's just just not that good. Once I get Chevreau to C6, I'll use her, but until then I'm gonna ignore her. If I get Nikita, I may look at building Toma's Burgeon team, but I have no reason to use him otherwise. Yanfei suffers from the fact that she's a 4-star DPS. Xinyan used to be my most hated character, but with the release of that thing, I've realized she's not that bad. Actually, her weapon pose is probably the iciest thing ever, definitely the best pose for some Claymore characters. Still not ever gonna build her though. If I can get my hands on a spare Elegy, I'll triple crown Amber, but until then, she's just not worth investing into. And that's it for the character review and the account showcase. If I missed something important, let me know. I'm pretty sure I covered everything noteworthy, but I'm only human, so if I miss something you care about, tell me and I'll see what I can do about showing it off. Thanks by the way if you made it this far. I know this video is pretty long and I tried to cut it down as much as I could. I could have talked about characters a lot more in depth, but I needed to cover all of them, so I kept it more brief than I'd like. I'm a little bit of a yapper. Let me know, did you like the video? Did I pace it right? Should I have added more edits, more sound effects, stuff like that? I love getting feedback and it's the best way for me to grow my skills and make more entertaining videos for you. Also, it's fun engagement baiting people. I love reading comments, and when I ask questions it gets people to comment more, which is awesome. And it's also super helpful for me. That being said, I appreciate all of you no matter what you do, whether you comment, like, sub, or even just watch for a little bit. Time is the most valuable resource in the world, and I'm so glad you chose to spend a little bit with me. Anyways, that's it. That's all I got for you. As always, thank you for your time and have a wonderful day.
That won't ever change. Yeah, sometimes I'm mad, sometimes I'm okay. Yeah, I know I'll have what I want someday. I need my